Welcome, Arden Jennings at Ausbil, to this INBrief for the Inside Network. Thank you so much for joining us over in Queenstown for the Investment Leaders Forum. Rich series of conversations, some insights, a lot of collaboration and a collegiate atmosphere. What did you learn from talking to those investment leaders from across the advice community?
Yeah, thanks for having me firstly. It certainly is a challenging landscape, obviously with significant volatility, drifting markets. No one's alone here. Everybody was agreeing that it has been a challenging environment. So one of the other key takeaways was obviously advisors looking for more uncorrelated asset classes as an opportunity going forward, but they're certainly wary of the liquidity considerations that also entails. Probably lastly as well, advisors and consultants, they're still very cautious. So there's plenty of cash on the sidelines still. Everyone's pretty defensive. They're certainly not diving into Australian small caps at the moment, but there is certainly growing interest for that as an opportunity.
And so one of the things that's fascinating in that small cap space is we're in reporting season. Data, you're going to get a deluge of it, but I'd imagine the rest of the year is challenging. It's a heterogeneous space in terms of coverage. How do you try to navigate that?
Yeah, it certainly is incredibly important, data and information for us. We have a really strong company visitation program. We're out on the road, seeing as many companies as we can. We acknowledge that, intelligence is a commodity in many industries, and that is the same in funds management, but hard work certainly goes a long way. So we like to get out and find out and try and uncover as many opportunities as possible and use, the information and data that companies can give to us, not just through financial reports, but speaking with management teams as well to marry that up.
And you're looking for the very best opportunities. That potentially skews towards certain sectors. How do you try to think about your profile as a whole portfolio? Are you agnostic about where a business sits with its sector, or do you try to think about that diversification piece?
Yeah, we certainly diversify the portfolio. However, what I would say is we have a 4-stage process at Ausbil across all the funds. And first stage macroeconomic analysis, we focus on the top down. And for us, that's only about 10% of the input into the process, a bit larger for large caps, obviously. But that's just used to identify risks and opportunities within particular sectors. For us, that's our starting point, and that can direct our research efforts. But predominantly we are 90% bottom-up fundamental, and then obviously provide, putting across that, portfolio construction to make sure we have a well-rounded, risk-aware portfolio.
So you touched a little bit on that process. Do you look at it, Arden, as being an art, a science, or a bit of a blend?
Yeah, definitely a bit of a blend. I'd certainly say there's more art than science in small caps relative to large caps. Clearly, we're backing management teams here, but we also need to marry up the science, obviously, with the art. So from the science perspective, we're modelling out each of our companies for P&L, cash flow, balance sheet. The segments in how they're turning a dollar revenue into a profit. That's really important to be able to pick the upgrades and hopefully avoid the downgrades. We are very much driven by the science, but you've got to marry that up as well with the art of markets to be able to identify, those next big success stories.
So we had a special little trip and activity, series of experiences across 3 days. What would you like now, the key takeaway to be for those delegates that have come back in their practices? What would you like them to remember from your contribution to the conversation?
Yeah, the time is now to really review your Australian small cap asset allocation. 2022 was a really tough year. Small caps fell 18% over the calendar year. So it's certainly been challenging as we saw a multiple D rate with the fastest rate hiking cycle in history, but also inflation come through and hit small companies that weren't able to adjust their cost bases and raise prices. So that impacted margins and resulted in earnings downgrades to come through. So we've had a multiple D rate. The earnings downgrades have come through, but what we've seen now is that small caps relative to large caps are trading at a significant discount to their long-term history, and we see that as a really compelling opportunity, especially when there's still growth on offer. So small industrials, the growth in FY24 is double that of the large industrials. So you've got a discount on valuation, but also superior growth on offer. So now is the time really to look at small caps for your asset allocation.
There you go. There's your call to action. Thanks so much for joining this INBrief. Thank you very much, Arden Jennings.
Thank you.